Hey guys, so I've been thinking a lot about making some sort of tutorial video. I guess I just was waiting for the opportunity to arise. Anyway, a lot of people have asked me about how you properly color someone. So, for the purposes of this video, I have an anime character right here. Because I'm a nerd, but also because it's a good place to start if you want to test out a lot of colors on one palette. This particular character is Neko from K Project, for anyone who wants to know. So, as you can see, I've already inked her out and I'm ready to apply my base colors. I generally use a mixture of Prismacolor and Copic dual tip brush markers when I'm coloring a picture. Usually it's because of their vibrancy and their impressive even bleed, which leaves an almost printed look to the drawing. They go for around $6 a piece for Prismacolors and about $8 for Copics. Though I heard from a friend that you can refill the Copic cartridges if you want. So I begin by coloring the eyes. Eyes are the focal point of a face, so it only feels natural starting there and working my way out. I'm testing the markers to make sure they're the shade I want to use. With brush markers, there are pretty much infinite amounts of combinations and colors, so it can be pretty difficult choosing just the right one. For Neko's eyes, I'm starting out with a base layer of what they call ocean blue, lightly leafing it in with my hand strokes onto the page. Always know this: start out light and move into darker colors gradually, not the other way around. This ensures that you adapt to coloring the picture before going boldly and confidently with riskier, darker shades. Next, I add a light blue to the upper 2/3 of the eye, coloring carefully around the pupil. After that, I use the color Process Blue to darken the top third of the eye, using the lighter blues as a sort of blender to smoothen the light to dark effect. You could do this as long as you want, but that looks pretty good, so I'll move on to the next eye. This one is green, as she has two different colored eyes. I start out with wax white, then I move on to a Prismacolor of the color tea green. I like this color because it's deeper than wax white, but it is a Prismacolor, which in my opinion blend much better than Copics because of their heavy watercolor demeanor. Just an opinion, but it works for me. I repeat the same process as before, so I'll just speed this up a bit. There we go, both eyes are done, which means it's time for my favorite skin color of all time, Pale Fruit Pink. Hands down the best dang color out there for skin, honestly. It's a super good base color and I definitely recommend it to anyone with some extra pocket change. Before slapping on that base color, you need to get rid of any other pencils, so I just use pretty much a big eraser. It works well enough. Now, the thing with skin color more than anything is consistency. So once you put your marker on that paper, you better keep it moving. Otherwise it's going to create uneven ripples in the skin tone surface, and that's not good for anyone. The important thing to remember is pushing lightly on the brush and moving back and forth at a moderate pace. Not too fast, not too slow. It's a feather motion, and in order to stay even, you have to keep the strokes relatively parallel and slightly overlapping each other with each up and down pass. If you haven't done this yet, I don't recommend throwing yourself straight into a presentation piece. You should probably practice first and work your way into it until you're comfortable enough to go for it. Get the vital areas such as the cheeks, the chin, and the nose done first. Then, you work your way into the tighter, less noticeable areas of the face and head. That way, if you mess up, it won't be until after you did all that other work. I've been there many times, so let me try and save you the trouble of doing it to yourself. Let's kick this into time-lapse and I'll pick it back up when I finish the coloring. Okay, so now I'm taking a slightly more pronounced skin tone called Skin White and applying it to shadowed areas in the drawing. You don't need to go crazy with this, just find areas where the hair, the eyes, the nose, ears, and neck all cast little shadows. From there, you simply leaf in a brush stroke, and that pretty much gets the job done. Just make sure to blend it. That's what separates the amateurs from the professionals, and you don't need to be any professional to know that. Good shading and good blending is key in this particular type of coloring job. Imagine where the sunlight hits and shade according to the imaginary beam of light. Mine is above and slightly top left, but yours can be basically anywhere you want on the paper. Now, with a shade of light peach, I'm going to put it back into time-lapse mode and do the same things I just did with the first color, each time pronouncing it a little more with a slightly darker shade of marker. Now we can begin the hair. Finally, I know. Neko's hair is generally a kind of light purplish color, so I'm going to use this Copic known as Pale Heath to shade the base layer for her hair color. You want to take the marker and start pressing slightly, swiping your marker and pivoting your hand so the stroke makes a slight arc. This helps to give a nice even gradient of shading to white for the overall color. You press the marker as you begin the arc, then you press less and less on it until at the end of the arc it's almost traveling slightly above the paper. Keep doing this, and soon you'll have the whole bottom half of the hair complete. For the lower parts of the hair, and the areas you don't need a swiping motion by the brush, I generally use a chisel tip end of the marker as they bleed evenly and fit best for areas with no gradient but solid color forms. Then, I finish the top of the head, leaving part of the hair white, which gives more of a three-dimensional look. When you're done with it, it's time for the second layer. I usually use 2 colors for the hair, but you can use as many as you want. I've even used up to 3 or 4. I'm using just a normal pink for the second color, shading the darker areas of the hair, which generally are behind the ears, behind the head, and wherever individual strands of the hair cast shadows. I usually do a similar swiping motion to the initial colored layer of the hair, once again making the arc with the brush strokes. Instead of coloring the whole head of hair though, I simply color it in a shadowed style. We'll kick it in a time lapse and then move into the last phase of the project. Okay, so now is the easiest part. I'm simply going to color the collar a dark purple, just applying the Copic carefully so it doesn't overbleed. Some newer or some faulty markers, which the ink tends to spill out of, can do that. Now that that's done, the final steps are to color in the shirt and sign and date the picture. Similar to the skin's base layer, you want to take your marker and give close parallel strokes, and you want to just keep going once you start to keep the even bleed across the paper. Once you do that, you're all set until the next one. So, I hope this helps you guys out in your future coloring endeavors. As always, I greatly appreciate it if you like, subscribe, or follow me on Instagram at the Delphian Sylph. Thanks for watching.